All right, it is 2 after, and I think it's time we get started. How's everybody doing? Uh, I think this is the channel that everyone's allowed to talk on, so go crazy if you want to.
How's things, Mav?
Hi guys, how you doing?
Yep, that's the definition of going crazy.
Tidy work.
Yeah, no, things are good here. How's everybody else?
How are you, Crypto Knight?
Good, thanks, buddy. How are you?
Good, mate.
How's London? You surviving?
It's still miserable. I can't quite call it summer yet, but it's getting there. It's trying.
Thanks for reminding me why I left.
Yeah,
Cheers,
mate. I'll take a photo. It's pretty gloomy.
So I've seen enough of that, man. Don't worry.
Oh, it's good to be back in the STO room, and there's certainly some interesting prospects out there at the moment. So thanks to there's been a lot of chatter as of late with Digishares and what's the other one, Blockstate. So they both look like some pretty interesting projects. So keen to kind of talk through them a little bit.
Yeah, let's get started. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, they both seem pretty similar, really, don't they? What they're trying to, the market they're sort of trying to get into and do. They're both issuance platforms and stuff. Really. So
yeah, we're seeing a fairly similar, like $10-20 million market cap range for these new entrants. It looks like these guys just testing the toes and seeing what it looks like. What's interesting to me is how they're the European equivalent of what we're seeing predominantly come out of the US. So I think they're probably going to have maybe more openness, both in terms of people who would like to tokenize things, but also by the regulators. So to me, it and particularly Blockstate, I haven't looked into Digishares enough yet, but I really like how clean Blockstate's collateral, branding, they've really put the effort in, and you can actually tell. And a website tells 1,000 words. I really like that, and I think it tells a good story to me.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think the website's very, very slick, very cool. Actually, do you mean it does look good? I like the colors even. Do you know what I mean? It all gels.
It's professional.
Yeah, very good. But yeah, I know it's interesting because they're both sort of at a similar sort of stage. I mean, I think maybe the team looks stronger to me for Blockport over. I mean, just as in Klaus from Digishares is probably a bit more on his own and sort of like leading, with a couple of the others, but they don't seem to sort of participate much in like Telegram or stuff. It's all Klaus, you mean? But he has got Digishares got some very strong advisors with, especially Alex Malinsky. I think he's pretty. You can't knock him back. He's like, from creating Skype to Celsius and pretty strong advisor there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of him. I'll have to look into his profile, but that's what you're kind of looking for, right? We'll start seeing the same names coming up, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong. But yeah, definitely keeping an eye out for. I mean, really, these things are built by people, right? So if you've got a good team, you can deliver anything. If you've got a terrible team, well, we know where that ends up.
For sure, yeah, definitely. Did you speak to? Did you get in touch with Klaus about the pre-sale still being open and stuff, and how much it is, and
I haven't directly yet, but I did sign up to their. One of the members has posted something earlier in this chat room. You can access their portal. I think it's something like 570 euros is the minimum buy-in for Digishares. And then I think Blockstate is, I keep trying to say Blockstate is 200, I believe it's 200 euros minimum, but it's, from what I'm reading there, it says 200 euros per offer share. And I believe that each offer share is a packet of shares, if that makes sense. So I think that if you're buying, you have to buy in lots of 200 euros. I think that's the way it goes down. Everything's worth one Swiss franc?
I see what you mean then, yeah, because I read something about 10,000 shares at 200, but
yes. So if you multiply those together, there's 2 million raise.
2 million, but then they're going for 20 million. So that's the
10x. Yeah.
Yeah,
on the
that's
10
the one.
times valuation.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So it's a lot. You get 200 is one lot, which
200
20.
shares, yeah, or thereabouts.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Interesting. But because that's the only thing that sort of, that I was sort of, when I got into the pre-sale for Digishares, it was half price, and I think the minimum investment was $2,500, and
Similar to Pref.
exactly, yeah. And so I don't know if he's lowered it since then, but they've got, I think they've got about it's about 9.2 million cloud. The Digishares is valued at 9.2 million compared to Blockstate at 20 million. But if you get half the shares, you get double the amount of shares in the pre-sale in Digishares, then that creates really they got a 4x. Blockstate have got a 4x before you get the same, just to stand even on a 9 million market cap for Digishares. So they've got to be 80 million. You know what I mean? Blockstate's got to be 80 million for Digishares being 9 million. Do you know what I mean? So that's why.
So you're saying you get 4. Yeah. So you're getting a 4x multiplier because if Digishares is half the market cap, in theory it doubles, goes to 20, and then the other one is you say you get a 50% discount. So there's your 2 times 2.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're looking at basically Blockport have got to get 80 million before they match the 9 million equivalent of what I got in at Digishares. So
gotcha.
So that's what I think.
So and do you have a feel for? I mean, there's a difference in market cap there. Do you have a feel for whether it's a justified difference? Do you think that there is in fact let's just take it from a 2x, right? Because if you taking pre-sale discounts and things out, do you think that there's a 2x difference between these two? I mean, granted that 10 million's peanuts in the grand scale of things, but curious if you got any kind of differences or ideas around that.
It's I haven't looked enough into Blockport basically. Do you mean Blockstate? Sorry, but who knows? It's a bit difficult to tell at this stage. Do you mean because they're both? I did sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I did look at the Digishares platform of how they're how it's running. It looks good. It looks like it's all. He's thought of a lot of things, got it all in place. Klaus is. It's in Danish. He seems like he's got a lot of contacts in the financial things. He's actually like the main person who holds lots of conferences for a lot of fintech and financial institutions. Sort of, he holds a lot of events and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So I think he's got a lot of connections. Very impressed that he got Alex Malinsky. You look into Alex Malinsky. I mean, the man's a real legend, really. Do you mean? So that was pretty impressive as well. Do you mean? So yeah, I don't know. For getting in, let's say, half price. So basically, I've got the equivalent of like 4.5 million market cap. But if it's once it does all the STO, it should be valued at 9 million. I think if it's still available, I think it's a very good punt. Do you mean? I think compared to. But who knows? But I haven't really checked. Like I said, I haven't checked out too much about Blockstate's team, so I'm not sure.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be looking into Digishares. I think you're right that they seem to be good opportunities at taking a punt, particularly in the European market. To me, that's exciting, and that's a good diversification. They've got ticket sizes that are actually appropriate for retail level investment, which is again fairly positive. And one thing, I watched a couple of videos on Blockstate, and one thing that I really liked, and I've heard Pref's Todd say it many times, is if you're talking to your audience about tokens and blockchains, you've gone too far. The idea is you're supposed to just be talking about this industry as a new form of capital or a new pathway to capital formation. And what I liked about watching some of, I think his name's Paul from Blockstate, what I liked in his presentations is he introduced and said, look, we're using Ethereum, we're basically using tokens. the advantage is you can transfer things and it opens up new markets. And then the rest of his talk was all about the types of people, the different liquidities that they can access, the different markets. He was coming at it from a capital market standpoint. And to me, that was really, really positive, and that was a good sign. To me, it shows that he knows what it's about, and he knows what the industry is about. It's not about the blockchain; it's about capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. What struck me is the difference between the two, just in doing reading through their white papers and their blog posts, is that Blockstate did a better job of kind of describing the problem, or rather, sort of the state of what exists today. And I felt like Digishares did a better job of kind of summing up their solution or the opportunity. But both of them presented an opportunity based off, just there's a tremendous amount of bloat and inefficiency with today's financial markets. And to be able to not only just, tokenize equity, but to do assets and to build ETFs off of those assets and things like that. That's really exciting. And for, both of these projects to have kind of similar visions on that front, especially in the European context. So they're hyper focalized. I think that's really cool. I think there's they present a lot of really good data to back up their claims and what exactly they're going after. So I will be very interested to see, how they can break into the markets. Certainly Digishares announcing that partnership with Amazix, is that it? Last week.
Yeah.
That was that's a good step in the right direction of showing that they're committed to, making sure that they've got the tool set to tackle what is a very big problem. But half that problem is perception and understanding and education, and getting people to recognize the benefits inherent in a blockchain structure regarding securities, regarding equity, and a lot of these other financial tools that we would utilize.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention actually, and you'll like this, Checkmate, because Klaus, he keeps doing all these events, and he earlier this month he held one with Maker DAO as well. They came over to do a joint presentation in one of his things. So he seems like he's connected with the right people and pushing the right areas. Do you know what I mean? So
that's very interesting.
Yeah. I think it was about the 18th of June. I think he did it only about a week ago or something. It was over in Denmark somewhere.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'll look for the details. Do you mean? But,
that'd be good. Because look, the best way to see these things is, from my perspective, is to find videos and interviews of these people, because when you get to hear them speak, you get to hear A, how passionate they are, B, how much they know about their topic, and you just learn so much more about the project than trying to interpret legalese and reading white papers. So, if you happen to find something, definitely throw it up, because I'd love to dig in deeper for these two companies.
Exactly, and I think also because Digishares, I know they got a partnership with one exchange. I think is it Blockport or something, or Block? I can't remember.
Oh, I think I literally just scrolled past it.
And it's a big one that's got just got a license for something.
Blocktrade.com.
So yeah, exactly, that's the one. Blocktrade, yeah. And I think they've just got a European license for something, or they got a license that actually allows them to do something in America as well, I think. I've got to run back. I'll have a look for the details, actually. Yeah, I'll scan through while you guys carry on. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, and what I liked about the talk from Paul from Blockstate is he was talking about where the actual opportunities are. He was saying, the small to medium enterprises, or the SMEs, that's where, he says something like it's 2/3 of employers are in the SME space. So 2/3 of people in the world work for SMEs. And yet they have an enormously difficult time getting access to capital. So it's, he clearly understands his target market. And in one of the presentations he was doing, he was talking about tokenizing, I think it was like an events company who does music festivals and things like that, creating capital pathways and tokenize securities for assets that you just couldn't have shares in before. So that he solves two problems, right? There's people who can get access to these markets as an investment, but then the other one is that you're giving these companies who just can't get access to capital. So it really is solving the problem from both sides.
Yeah, and Blockstate's white paper, they talk about smart contracts for liquid derivatives, and just the fact that there's no such thing today, and how you can build in that blockchain technology to really build in this almost new market. Just the power of that, I think that's really cool to see, and to free up that capital, free up the exposure for secondary trading or whatever you want to do with it. That's really exciting stuff. Honestly, I think what kind of excites me is seeing sort of the blend of STO industry niche or whatever with some of the tenets that we talk about in DeFi as well, this open finance perspective, and kind of seeing almost a little bit of a crossover between the two. That is really cool. That is something that gets me pretty excited. And if I had the opportunity to get into these early rounds, I would.
Yeah, exactly. Because also I just looked up because apparently Blocktrade they're going at the moment for the MTF license, European license or something. And once they get that, they want to go for the American bit license apparently in the New York. Is it ATS? Is that your equivalent as well to the MTF or something? Is that what they're saying? ATS license. So apparently, yeah. So it sounds like Digishares got a partnership with Blocktrade, and Blocktrade are getting all the right licenses and trying to get into the European and the American market. So pretty good for Digishares on that one.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And look, I can only imagine that the European market is going to be adopting this stuff sooner rather than later, particularly in Switzerland and Denmark, where they're a bit more forward thinking than the rest of us plebs. So I think it's to me it's pretty exciting, and I'll certainly be digging into these two firms to understand more about what they're doing, and particularly what their forward workload looks like. I know Blockstate's got about 4 or 5 confirmed deals, and that's always important to see. And you've just mentioned that there's a whole bunch of potential partnerships and different contacts that Klaus has. So that they're all, that's what you're looking for. You really want a steady pipeline of work coming through these companies. But let's face it, the concept of what we're here for, what STOs are here for, is sound. There's just no way that something of this nature is going to just disappear. It makes a lot of sense. The reality is the timing right, and can whatever company gets involved in this space, do they have the management skills and the financial flow to survive if it doesn't catch on for 5 years? Are they going to be around in 5 years' time? That's really what you're looking for, and you need to have people who have good management experience and understand the risks driving these things at the helm.
Yeah, I think that was sort of where I'd like to segue the conversation a little bit, is making sure that we acknowledge some of the potential pitfalls or concerns, or just really in terms of investor perception of what awaits you if you make an investment in a platform like this. What can you expect? And yeah, I think patience is a virtue when it comes to STOs, and we've certainly seen that so far, but I think that's part of why we're doing what we're doing, is that we have to wait for things to matriculate in the right ways. We can't just hope for the market to suddenly just upswing one day and shoot up out of the blue. It's just not going to happen like that with STOs. It's going to be a very slow growth. It will eventually see somewhat of a breaking of the dam moment, where there will be more and more issuers and tokenized equity and things like that starting to come to the forefront once people understand it in a mass market sense. But until that point happens, it is going to be very slow growing, and it is all about survivability in this sense. So whoever is making partnerships, whoever is making clear growth, even at this stage, I think that is indicative of a much brighter future.
Yeah, it'll be a hockey stick industry, right? The thing will just be flatline for a long time, and then one day it'll just go, and there'll be momentum that shifts in different parts of the world. Which, to be honest, is why it's a good idea to actually be looking at different jurisdictions if possible. So, for people who have access, it is good to have exposure in the US. It's good to have exposure in Europe. A lot of these early companies won't make it. It's not to say that these won't, but that they're really testing the waters in the early days, and you need to think about the balance between what kind of companies and firms and everything else are likely to actually want to tokenize versus how many platforms are actually there to enable it. And to be perfectly honest, this is kind of a bit of a positive storm, because we can't ignore the fact that the cryptocurrency market is going extremely well right now. And I do suspect that that's going to be the narrative for a very, very large portion of the next 2 to 3 years. I think it's going to be a strange balance between the cryptocurrency market, which if we do see things really heat up, even in the face of a global downturn, it's going to be interesting to see how those two, opposing forces compete, because we've just never seen Bitcoin exist in that scenario before. And if Bitcoin performs, it's going to be interesting to see whether Ethereum follows suit. I suspect it would, simply because it's the alternative asset, and it will build faith and trust in the cryptocurrency industry. Or it could be that none of them go, and then everything goes kaput. Or it could be just Bitcoin that goes. So it's going to be a very interesting thing to watch, and I think we need to keep that in the back of our mind, that there's a trust factor here in blockchain technology, and Bitcoin is leading the way on that, and it's going to drive institutional acceptance of that trust.
Yeah, I think that definitely highlights something that I hope is made more clear in the coming years, as to the distinction between, we talk about the 3 pillars of crypto, STO, and DeFi, but specifically as it relates to adoption, specifically as it relates to that sort of adoption state that we're craving, as we work hard to define what this technology is used for, the use cases, what does the future look like, basically. It's most tangible in the sense of STOs, what their purpose is. There's really not a lot of complexity there. We're digitizing a paper process. We're making financial services more efficient. There is a very clear end state to where security tokens are going. Not saying that crypto is abstract in its sort of end game, but what happens? What does a world look like when there's 1% crypto adoption? What does that enable? What has to be enabled for that to happen? There's a lot of questions that surround cryptocurrency. I'm not doubting that will happen, but there's a lot of things that a lot of dominoes that need to fall to see that happen. And I agree, Checkmate. There's it's going to be very interesting to see sort of the relationship and duality of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and platforms and smart contracts, and just a lot of different use cases and tools. But for STOs, it's dead simple in terms of we are just making things more efficient. That's really all what we're doing. So yes, it is a sense of we were waiting for some of that hockey stick moment, but at the same time, it's about adoption. It's about just converting an existing process and bringing it into the new century. But I don't know. I don't want to get too too lengthy here.
Yeah, that's kind of everything on my mind for these two. I'll certainly be doing some more digging and posting up my thoughts in the next coming weeks, and I might even try and squeeze a bit of a summary research note either this week or the following week on the two. So I'll try and get that out fairly soon for a Sunday newsletter.
Sounds good. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, very cool. Is there anything else? I know Arsh asked us to Realty. Cool. Okay, so yeah, just want to make sure if anybody had any lingering questions or things they wanted to bring up about Blockstate and Digishares. But yeah, I can definitely talk a little bit about Realty. They I met them at Consensus. They're I think they were founded in April, maybe March. So they're very new, but what they are doing is doing real estate on the blockchain, basically, and allowing for it's US based, so that gets me excited. Allowing US investors to own a fractional share of a piece of real estate and to get all the benefits and ownership rights that comes with. So if there's rent for that property, getting a fractional piece of that rent, and because it's being paid out through smart contracts, you have the ability to get that rent payment daily instead of waiting to the end of the month or whatever. Little things like that. I think that it starts to change the conventions. It starts to get people to sort of broaden their perspective of what is possible once you start to interject things like blockchain into something that is illiquid and unmoving as real estate. It starts to get people to think about the right sort of questions. So I think what Realty is doing is very cool. It's very small scale right now, but they are sort of, I don't know if there is subsidiary of Bunker Capital, who is kind of their parent company, who's helping with their marketing and their back end capital and administrative whatever clerical stuff. But beyond that, I don't know exactly if they are destined to be a large scale application. Maybe they'll just continue to be sort of this single property, almost. Their platform almost looks like Airbnb. You just kind of like are looking at different properties, and you can select them based on their property values or the attributes of that property. That's cool. I think that is in the future. I'd love to see more of that sort of investment platform for the common retail investor to say, hey, if you're putting aside 5% of your paycheck, to be able to go out and diversify that into things like real estate, and to do that with $10 at a time. I think that's very powerful. That helps people get ahead by allowing them to diversify into many different classes of assets. So I think at this point in time, I can't really give Realty a full review because they're still so very new. But from what I've seen so far, it is very promising, and it's indicative of a much larger trend that I'm much more excited about. Just real estate, blockchain, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of power there.
I mean, the power is really in those illiquid assets, isn't it? Ones that are really hard to move and have big ticket sizes that need to be broken up. It's just such a powerful concept, being able to open that up to investors. And like you look at some of these real estate platforms, and particularly commercial real estate, where you're talking about millions of dollar ticket sizes, and if you could break that up into even 100 pieces, you've probably 1,000 times the number of investors, the pool of people who'd be even remotely able to touch that kind of opportunity. So I think there's a huge opportunity. I haven't looked into Realty personally, but it's one of those major asset classes that stands to benefit from this tech for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not out there saying that Realty is going to be the next big thing. It's a weather vane of a much larger trend. And like Checkmate was just saying, giving digital power to what has been a very paper process. When we talk about digitizing real estate, sometimes people's eyes glass over is like, okay, cool. You're just finding a way to interject technology in a place that it normally hasn't existed. But it goes much more than that. It gives us the ability to interject financial instruments that just haven't existed before. For us to have fractionalized ownership, for us to have synthetic derivatives for pieces of property. You could bundle a bunch of real estate properties together in a REIT. You could have an ETF of different property neighborhoods, cities, whatever. It's the future is bright with that sort of power and potential. So that's what gets me excited about that. So I'm definitely making a video on this very shortly here. It's a topic that gets me very excited. As far as other US-based STO companies, that's a great question. I guess I haven't done recent research in that, and because it is still very much a gridlocked, we haven't seen too much progress on the regulatory front with that sort of stuff. A lot of the progress that I've seen recently for STOs has been in Europe, and they're right now they're serving as a testing bed of the potential of the power of STOs, and it's a little frustrating being based in the U.S. to watch that going on. But at the same time, I know that once the pipelines are built, we're going to be able to take a lot of that knowledge and that first version kind of environment and replicate it in the U.S. and hopefully build upon it and make it better. So yes, it is. I don't know. I was just talking with Todd about this last week and just kind of the state of things. And look, it really hasn't changed, both for the worse, but also much more for the better. I think where we are right now, what we are seeing is that the regulatory front is very receptive to the potential of security tokens. They just want the ability to have the same sort of powers that are inherent with today's model. The ability to subpoena someone, the ability to roll back something, the ability to trace a transaction. These sort of things are just, I don't know, taken for granted in today's system, and they want to make sure that if we're interjecting a technology like blockchain into that mix, that they retain a lot of those powers as a regulatory body. Yes, that does mean that security tokens are going to be centralized in a lot of aspects, but that's okay. I think that's we're not seeking decentralization in every aspect with security tokens. We're looking for some of the best aspects of blockchain, and then just kind of building on top of that with the security token architecture. So as far as the state of things in the U.S., I don't know. I'll continue to look into that, see if there's been any major developments or bright new companies in the U.S. But for now, I'm not aware of any.
Have you caught up with Todd? What's he up to? Any latest news from his side of the fence?
Yeah. So with Preflogic, who he's still representing, he is excited to bring to market their STO wizard, which is done. So at this point, you're able to so long as you have KYC and all the other things that go along with a SEC exemption issuance, you're able to build out a Reg D or Reg S on their platform, and that's really cool to see. That it's a turnkey solution for that sort of offering. So yes, I think there's a lot to get excited about the next couple of years for STOs. Pref being one of them. I think what they're lacking right now is sort of that marketing front and just getting people to understand what they're doing. I've criticized them for that. I've tried to push them to adopt more marketing, but it's a tight business. They haven't done a lot of outbound marketing, simply because it's a hard sell right now. You have to kind of convince people what is an STO or what is a security token. Have to educate them on that, and that right there is already a big uphill battle right now. So I think half of what we do right now is just the lexicon and sort of the way we talk about things. Yes, the CMO thing, I would also agree with that. it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look for you to bring in a CMO and then immediately part ways. That's not something that I like to see. It did concern me on that front. So, it's there's no explaining that away. As much as I wish I could, or I wish they would. That's definitely some egg on the face. But it's a startup culture. There's going to be mistakes. Why that happened? I got a little bit of a sense from the CEO and Todd that they just kind of moved too fast and kind of weren't able to mutually agree upon a certain compensation. But yeah, you don't make announcements like what they did without clearing all that first. So I don't know. Yeah, it's frustrating to see that for sure. Yeah, there's no good way to talk about something like that. But yeah, this is crypto. I've seen other mistakes like that. So it's yeah. Yeah, I wasn't either. And I emailed Todd and Chris about that. They put out that 6-minute video, and like it was good in some sense of just walking you through the process of like, hey, I want to tokenize my business. This is what you do. Like this is how you use the STO wizard. I mean, that was cool, but I won't compare to my videos, but I just will say that the quality just wasn't, indicative of a company that's looking to, be mass market. So yeah, I think where they are right now is trying to prove their model. What they want to do is try to bring on, 500 people to, tokenize their company or, go launch a company using the STO wizard. And that's cool. Of course, they have to get over the hurdle of attracting 500 people that want to do that. Yeah, I think a little bit of a good luck to them on that front. But that's okay. I think as long as they're thinking big, that's important. And I would say that to any STO issuance platform is like, so long as they've got a mission and they're sticking to it. Like I was saying earlier with Blockstate and Digishares, so long as they understand the problem and are hyper focused on the solution to that problem, I mean that to me is a hallmark of a good project, or at least a project that is operating the way it should be. So yeah, I'll be frank, I am concerned about about their next 6 months, because they have to go to market. They absolutely have to. And it's we'll see if they can make it happen. But yeah,
do you have a feel for why they haven't launched their product as yet?
I think they were waiting to get all the bugs kind of like everything in order before they started to go to market like that. That's not how I would operate a business like that. Hype up your company before you even have the product. I think that's what we see often in the crypto space, and we can definitely see how effective that is. Yeah, I think they're operating on kind of a skeletal budget. So for them, it was much more important to spend those dollars on the product development than focus on the marketing. Yeah, I can see why they would do that, but at the same time, to not market, I think is a grave error, and may end up being something that is irrevocable, especially as the industry develops. But we'll see. It's still very early, and it's anyone's horse race at this point. But yeah, we saw that graphic posted last week. I think we discussed it a little bit. That showed the fundraising totals of the different STO issuance platforms. Yeah, I could probably post it right now. I probably have it saved. But it's very clear that there's certain players in the game are starting to pull away. Yeah, I don't have any new thoughts on T0. I haven't heard much. I did see something related to Flow, I thought. But
they moved from spot 300 to spot 301.
Yeah. That's not the right graphic. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
I think because last we spoke to Todd, he was saying that, what is it, in August, September this year, a lot of the early investor lockups for T0 and Medici Ventures and a whole bunch of things tied to Patrick Byrne's mission. I believe that a lot of those lockups start to clear up, and I think there will be a whole lot of movement from that point. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's definitely the hope. It is definitely still very early. for the entire industry. But it's clear that their pivot from a retail player to this crypto space is in full effect. So I do hope that they can find some success, or at least go down burning, and at least draw attention to that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what will happen over the next couple months with that.
That's pretty much everything that's been on my mind. Is there anything else from the floor? Any other questions or thoughts?
No, I haven't heard anything about Harbor.
It's funny, isn't it? The whole industry is gone very quiet, because I mean, we saw the other week that the what is it? Open finance order books are empty. It's gone pretty silent. And I think it really is just indicative of probably a lot of attention is probably shifted back towards the crypto industry and the wider economy at large. So I think there's probably there's movement going on in the background. I'm sure a lot of these companies are building out their tech, but really we need to keep in mind that they're building technology that will be used in 5 to 10 years time, right? En masse. It will happen and it will hockey stick. But there's going to be a time, and you can be on the right idea but too early, which is why we have to be conscious of that. As I would say, probably one of the biggest risks that exists in this space.
Yeah, it was interesting to me last week with the Libra launch. They, if you didn't know, they have 2 tokens: the Libra coin itself, the platform coin, but they also have a security token, and they defined it as such. It's the investment token that allows you to have a seat at the table for Libra's governance organization, the Libra Foundation, so that you can be a validator on their network. You have to have $1 billion under asset in order to be able to have that security token. But even still, I thought it was very interesting that that's what they went with, and that's the nomenclature that they used. I think it is just sort of pinprick little movements like that maybe lose sort of. It seems like they don't have significance in relation to, especially what Bitcoin is doing in this day and age. But Bitcoin started small. Bitcoin started very small, and it took half a decade for it to reach any sort of mass market. Well, I guess it's your perspective as to what mass market is, but we were still very much in the early days of this entire industry. So I'm not in a mindset of everything has to happen in an expedited fashion, or else we are doomed. No, this is as it relates to our position, as it relates to our opportunity. It's everything that the financial system of today has to lose, we have to gain, or rather, what we can build upon is that's what excites me. So STOs I think will always be sort of this counterculture to what Bitcoin and the blockchain market is like, where that is very much defined by hype and very volatile markets. STOs for a long time will be just this very slow going, methodical. Just it's going to take time, but that's okay. I think that to have the option for both, that's cool. I think that's right there. That helps you to build a more diversified portfolio, build a more diversified investing or trading approach. And I do hope that within pretty soon here we'll see an actual development of starting to see issuers actually launching, and there actually being some secondary markets trading for STOs. We're just not there yet, and I think we will be soon. But it's just going to take time.
I was going to say, Checkmate. When you look into Blockstate, going back to Blockstate, do they at this current stage at the moment? Do you feel that they're like a 2x already on Preflogic? Because again, Preflogic's market cap's only 10 million. Blockstate's 20 million. I just wonder why they've doubled their price, because you're going to get half the amount of shares if you invest now for your money for Preflogic. You're going to get half the amount of shares compared to what you're going to get in Blockstate. And I just wonder if that value is correct at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look, the way I look at things, right? And again, my experience in capital markets is only just really growing. But hang on, I'm just checking something right now. So I'm on page. I mean, this is my best reference point, right? I'm on page 4 of CoinMarketCap right now, and I have not heard of any of these projects, and they're still at 11, 10 million dollar market caps, right? These things are worthless. So when I look at the potential of these companies that have actual equity, have actual dividend rights, have actual governance rights, have real people working behind them and not dead coins on a phony exchange. When you think about the size of the market that a 10 or a $20 million company is taking on in the trillions of dollars, I think the scale of what they're dealing with is just so insignificant. And I think that, to be honest, it probably comes down to their, if you think about a $20 million company, it's most likely that they're going to have some justification for that. A lot of this stuff, when you're that small, is somewhat arbitrary, which is why you see a nice, neat $10, $20 million valuation. So to be honest, I wouldn't dig too much into it, because if you look at things too closely like that, which I think is what it was common during the crypto runs of 2017, is everything was focused on what's the market cap relative to its competitors. And I think the truth that people didn't understand is, if you understand the market that you're entering and you understand the team that can actually deliver the product, when you're talking about at that low level of value, I don't think it matters, to be honest. I think they pick this value that's kind of a best ballpark estimate as to what they believe that they're worth and what their offering is. So, I mean, my gut feel is that they're kind of all on par, and I don't really know how the mathematics of all that would work out in the grand scheme of things if the company makes it.
Well, because my thoughts on it is that, the equity side of things, they're a lot more sensible, and it's going to be going down to how much money they actually start generating. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, whereas like when you look down CoinMarketCap, it's all speculation, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And then it's a bit like looking at like Ripple, the company, against XRP. Do you know what I mean? There's a complete massive difference. Do you know what I mean? In the wrong way. The actual equity is much less. So I don't know. It's like, if it didn't really matter, then why? Todd's very clever, been in the markets all his life, and very closely tuned to companies and all that. Why didn't he put a valuation of 20 million? He gets more money. Do you mean keeps more shares for himself? Do you mean it's I don't know. It's I think it does matter. I mean, really, I think you will see these equity ones going much slower, but more. They've got to actually generate revenue to actually. They've got to be a profitable company for them to start making money. And if they're starting at 20 million, whereas the Preflogic starting at 10 million, do you mean then they're they're half behind. They're halfway behind. Do you mean? So Preflogic.
Yeah, it's fair commentary.
It'd be interesting to see, but I think they got to generate a lot of revenue. Like I said, to be 80 million worth genuine company on an equity scale compared to what you can get into Digishares at the moment. I think it's quite a big. Maybe they'll hit the ground running, but it could take a lot of in this slow, like hockey stick sort of type thing for STOs and equity companies. I think it's going to take quite a while for Blockstate to get to 80 million market cap. Do you mean a genuine one? So, well, we'll see.
Totally rational.
Yeah. A bit like Spice, it's like with Spice, you see, the NAV comes out, it's much more sensible. There's been no crazy ballooning on Spice. It's been a very up and down. Do you know what I mean? It's a waiting game, and it's hanging around the NAV. Do you know what I mean? So, I think Blockstate and Digishares and Pref will be exactly the same until they've got a lot of good customers under their belt. Do you know what I mean?
I think what is worth mentioning, and hopefully stressing is that with the STO industry, is especially the current crop of investments, what you have available, if you can get in, it's equity platforms and equity issuance platforms and equity exchanges. I think that's always going to be more attractive, both from owning equity, but also being in a position of selling the shovels. Being in a position of issuance for those companies looking to tokenize. Versus the crypto industry. If I had a choice between a $10 million project in the STO space versus, some $10 million utility token project over here, I'd take the equity every day. It's a very different market. It's a very different purpose. I think the point that Checkmate made was great. When you look at the crypto industry and you see a $10 million project, that's peanuts. There's nothing there. But with the STO industry, that's I think it has a substantial chance of being around in 2 years or so. It really depends on sort of the niche that they're going for. It depends on their ability to attract issuers for their platform, and we'll see. I think that's kind of where we are.
That's pretty much everything from my end.
Yeah, it sounds like Checkmate's dinner is almost ready. So,
you better believe it.
Definitely want to highlight that if you haven't seen Checkmate's video on the YouTube channel, I would definitely recommend go check it out. Very good. But yeah, I think this was very good. Always good to talk to you guys about STOs. I love this space. I think we are definitely here first. We're early, and yes, it's going to take some time, but we see the potential, and that's what gives us, a lot to look forward to. So, as always, it's a pleasure.
It's funny though, because we are so early. Do you mean? But in the same way, if this space goes off, or even if Bitcoin goes off, do you mean in the short, 5-year span, this could be so much bigger. Do you know what I mean? It's like it could be huge if everything does get tokenized. Do you mean? It's like it's maybe a slow starter, but it's going to be what a huge market they're going to they get into. Do you mean?
It feels very slow when you're sitting in the mix, but I keep coming back to what Jesse Livermore says, and he goes, you make these intelligent plays and you just sit and wait, and then one day you're going to look back and go, fuck that, what a ride.
Yeah, I hope so. And Bitcoin as well. I mean, if you go in Bitcoin and STOs and they both take off over, but they're going to be both going to be massive.
Just unfathomable size of the industries that they're taking on. Trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And there's just never been anything like this in a time when technology is accelerating faster than it's ever done before. There's so many cards that old mate Satoshi lined up. He should get a Nobel Prize in many fields if they ever find out who he is.
Exactly. I mean, hopefully he's going to jail soon, isn't he? Isn't he?
Yeah.
Going to be court cases coming up very soon.
Did you hear that he blamed it on a Microsoft bug, which Microsoft then tweeted that the bug actually came out 3 days or 4 days after he said that it happened?
He's going to get tripped up big time. Do you mean? So, good, isn't it?
He trips himself. Just let him talk. He'll sort it out.
Exactly. Just get the popcorn out and just let him dig his own grave. Do you mean? By the sounds of it.
What a muppet. All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Glad you enjoyed the video this morning. Something a little bit different.
Very good. Very good. Really, really easy to understand, and really made some really good points. Do you mean? Brought back a little bit of brought us down from the clouds, a bit of a realistic sort of of where everyone was talking to. We're already going to 100 million, 100,000 minutes. So it's good to keep your head on your feet and sort of looking at is this people putting them away, hodling them, or are they just keeping them on the exchange to trade again?
I think there's a lot of hedge funds that have had some very, very big check sizes that they will be cashing out once the momentum stops. That's my gut feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I can share with you guys is I have an investment list of a list of all the there's like 700 crypto investment funds. So if you find interest in data and kind of seeing what they're investing in, but yeah, going forward, what as we sort of get the model down and what these meetings look like, we definitely will be taking the time to talk about some highlights or news worthy events, such as an issuance of or like new platforms, or whoever's doing a fundraising, so that you guys know about that. And then I think it's also worth our time to at least focus on one project to say, okay, what is this project doing? What is it doing differently? Pros, cons, etc. I think we'll definitely be doing it. And yes, we'll definitely be posting the recording for this as well.
Great. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and I'll stay tuned on Blockstate and Digishares. I'll get some research out on that.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. I think
it